the work that we did with some of the staff and a lot of community members, including many of you, looked at the existing assets in Evanston to see what else is in Evanston that could connect with the library in a way that would allow there to be more than the sum of the parts. And this is a common approach to community called asset-based community development. It looks at how we can improve the quality of life in communities by starting with what we have and recognizing the value and the gifts and the assets of residents and their associations. And you saw earlier in Cecidra's presentation a map that was generated with some of the homework done in those sessions, and I'll show that to you again in a second. But I just want to get some language down. So let me, generally, when we're thinking about community assets, we're looking at 6 areas. We're looking at the people, individuals, especially their connections and relationships is a huge asset. We look at associations, assets, institutions, local economy, and the culture and stories that exist in the community. We really value what individuals have to offer, and certainly that can dramatically expand what a library can offer. There's only so many staff that can be employed by a library at any given time, but there are lots and lots of residents who can offer things that the library can host and frame up and connect people. So individuals is a great place to look for assets. Associations, by that we mean small groups that meet voluntarily and aren't really paid to get together. Everything from walking clubs to book groups to churches to Rotary. All those kinds of things are filled with gifts and assets and abilities, skills that a library can partner with. And institutions, also groups of people, but organized around delivering a particular product or service or types of services, filled with professional people, filled with resources, great partners to expand anything a library can offer in a community. Every community has physical assets, the places and spaces that exist in the community, natural and human-made. And this local economy exchange category is just all those places where people share their gifts. It might be a tool share. It might be the kid who mows the seniors' lawns on their block. It might be a farmer's market, any sort of local business, a laundromat, a tailor, any place where local folks exchange their gifts and resources. Wherever that's happening, there's energy and activity that often contains gifts that can be offered and partnered with. And then finally, culture and stories. Evanston's got lots of stories of when it's at its best, when it was challenged, and different parts of Evanston have their sub-stories, as well as all the cultures in Evanston and all that they have to offer. When we had these classes and people looked at it, and in your small groups, you'll be able to look at this again, but there's tons of associations in Evanston, whether they be churches or chambers or homeschool friends or the Haitian Fest, all those kinds of things. And there's institutions, whether they be schools or hospitals, healthcare, American Legion. You have all kinds of things that have lots of things they can do that could be partnered with the goals that we have for the library going forward. As you know, lots of physical spaces, from parks to subway stops to most institutions have physical space they offer, like schools and City Hall. Lots of markets and small stores and barber shops and things like that, which are amazing treasure troves of assets. And better than we do, but these are things that were brought up in the work, just the kinds of places where people hang out and stories of different communities, whether they be ethnic communities like Haitian or Jamaican, or I love the Foster Senior Club Fashion Club. There's so many places where culture is created and stories are shared in Evanston. And then everyone on this call is an asset, and what what this list is of people that folks thought of that connect to a lot of other people. So we find that's a great way. If you get a person involved who's connected to a lot of other associations, those other associations can become involved. So that's the language we used around identifying assets when we go into small groups here. We're going to ask you to think about the assets in the community. If you need to look at these slides again to get more ideas, your facilitators can do that. But you got an idea of the kinds of categories to look at, and think about what's one or two assets in Evanston that you would really like to see connected to the library. Think about our prior discussions that we've just had about the kinds of things you want to see the library engaged with, the kind of things that you want to see the library do. What are some existing community assets that could be connected to help make those happen? And especially if you can help make that connection. This part of this approach is remembering that we don't just, as in a democracy, we don't just sit back and wait for institutions to provide for us. We engage with them. And the more we can do that and help make connections, the more the institutions can do.